Miss Bwalya again. This is banking law. We look at unit 1. So we look at the first unit of banking law, and we'll start by looking at what banking is so that we can understand the content of this course. Alright, so banking is accepting for purpose of lending or investment of deposits of money from the public, repayable on demand or otherwise, and withdrawals by check, draft, order, or otherwise. So banking is simply that activity that is done by bankers or the bank, business that is done by bankers or the bank, which is done by accepting deposits from the public. They accept deposits from their customers, and then after accepting those deposits, they lend the funds they receive to others who may need them at that time, or they make investments using that same money, and then when the time comes when the customers want their money, they will pay back those customers. Okay. Then this business of banking also includes withdrawals, which may be done by check, draft, orders, or otherwise. Okay, so having looked at banking, let us now look at the full term banking law, what it means. Okay, so banking law is the broad term for laws that govern how banks and other financial institutions conduct business. So banking law is that term that is used to denote um, the laws that govern how these financial institutions operate their business, the laws that they follow, the regulations that they follow, what they're obligated to do in their business. That is what banking law connotes. Okay, so this is a very important definition. Make sure you know it by heart because it's a very common exam question. You need to know what um, the definition of banking law is. Okay, so having looked at that, let us now look at this Banking Regulation Act 1949. Okay, so Section 5B defines banking as accepting for the purpose of lending or investing of deposits of money from the public, repayable on demand and withdrawal by check, draft, or order. Okay, so when a customer deposits money in the bank, it is expected for the bank to keep that money for the customer, and then when the customer wants to use that money, uh, upon them demanding for that money, it is their money, the bank owes them money. So upon demand, the customer can have their money back. Okay, no wonder we're saying it is repayable on demand. Okay, after the customer makes a deposit, when they want to use that money now, they can have that money upon demand for it. Okay. And in the banking business, withdrawals can be done by check, withdrawals can be done by draft, or just by order. Okay, so that is how it operates. Then let us now look at the permitted business for banking. What is banking as um, an industry? What is it permitted to do as a business? Okay. So number 1 is borrowing, lending, or advance of money. Borrowing, lending, or advance of money, dealing in bills of exchange, handling promissory notes. So this is one of the permitted businesses that banking has. A banking industry has a banking sector is permitted to do. It is permitted to borrow money. It is permitted to lend money or advance of money. It is permitted to deal in bills of exchange, and it was also permitted to handle promissory notes. Okay. Then it is also permitted to act as an agent for government or local authority or any other person or persons. So as a bank, they are permitted to act as an agent for their customers, for instance. Okay, so they're permitted to act as agents for government, agents for local authorities, agents for an individual, or even for a company. They can act as an agent by doing some agency services as a bank. Okay. An example I can give for the agency service that a bank can do, which they're permitted to do, of course, as a banking business, is when a customer has an account with the bank, or let's say the customer is a company, and then they write a written order to the bank to say, pay our employees the salaries um, um, from the account of the company, of course. Okay, so the bank will act as an agent and pay the salaries to the employees of that company, since that company has written an order for the bank to do the payments for the salaries. Okay, so by doing so, the bank acts as an agent for its customer, who is the company in this case. Okay, then also contacting for public and private loans and negotiating and issuing the same. Contacting for public and private loans and negotiating and issuing the loans. Okay, so banks are also permitted to contact for public and private loans, and also they are permitted to negotiate and issue the loans. When a customer, for instance, it's a company, okay, they are a customer to the bank, they they can get a loan to the bank. The bank can issue a loan to their customer because they're permitted to do that. Okay. And then continuation here. Then they're also permitted to do dealing with issue of shares, loans, debentures, only to name a few for any company. Okay. Okay. Then the other permitted business for banking, what they're permitted to do as a bank is carrying on the transacting of every kind of guarantee and indemnity business. So they're also permitted to do that, being in the banking sector. Then they're also permitted to undertake and execute trusts. That's another permitted business of banking. Then they're also permitted to undertake and administrate estates as executor trustee or otherwise. Okay, so they're also permitted to do that as a bank. Then selling, improving, um, managing, developing, exchanging, leasing, mortgaging, or dealing with any or all matters of the property of company. So banks are also permitted to do that as a business. Okay. Then lastly, um, any other form of business as specified by the government in the official gazette. So sometimes you might find that the government has specified some business that a bank can do, okay, in the official gazette. So any other business that the government has specified in the official gazette that the bank can do as a business, they're also permitted to do that with no restriction, okay. So now let us look at what business the banks are prohibited, the business prohibited by banks. Okay, so no banking company shall directly or indirectly deal in buying or selling or bartering of goods except in connection with the realization of security given to or held by it. So this is the only prohibited business that the bank has. Okay, so no banking company is allowed to directly or indirectly deal in buying or selling or bartering of goods except in the connection with the realization of security given to or held by it. Okay. So here we're saying banking law revolves around the relationship between the customer and the bank. Banking law revolves around the relationship between the customer and the bank. So since banking law is about the regulations that are set that the banking industry should follow, it revolves around the relationship of customer and the bank. Okay. So as a financial institution, the bank enjoys the rights but is subjected to the duties has imposed by it by the law. Since the bank is imposed by law to do some duties, okay, um, it enjoys some rights, quite alright, but it is subjected to some duties. So since it is subjected to some duties by the law, we'll look at these duties that it is subjected to in the next slide. Okay, so the same goes to customers. Since bank is subjected to or follow some duties by law, the same goes to customers. They're also subjected to follow some duties as well. They enjoy rights, quite alright, but they also have some duties which we're going to look at in the next slides that we'll look at. Okay. So rights of the customer. The customer has these rights. So there's the right to draw on his account up to the extent of his credit balance or according to overdrawing limit as allowed by the bank. So when a customer, let's say when an individual is a customer of the bank, when a bank says you can only withdraw up to 2,000 a day, that is the drawing limit for that customer. So beyond that, the customer cannot be allowed to withdraw more than the 2,000. When the bank states that you can only draw up to 2,000 a day, then the customer has to oblige to that. Yes, they have the right to draw on their account up to the extent of their credit balance, but they can only draw up to that limit a day. But it doesn't mean that the following day they cannot withdraw. No, they can withdraw up to their credit limit. Okay, but they have to follow um, how much they have to withdraw per day. When that limit is done, then they can only withdraw the following day maybe. Okay. Then they also have the right to interest. Sorry, for the first one, let me just explain more on that one. The bank will not stop you as a customer to say yesterday you withdrew 2,000, today you withdrew 2,000, again tomorrow you can go back and withdraw. It's your money. No wonder they are saying rights to draw on his account up to the extent of his credit balance. If a customer wishes, they can withdraw everything into their account as long as they are withdrawing up to the limit that the bank has given them. On the day, they withdraw today, they withdraw tomorrow, they withdraw the other day, up to when their money is complete in the bank. They can do that. They have that right to withdraw everything from the bank. The bank will not stop the customer to say, no, you withdrawn today, you want to withdraw tomorrow again. They will not stop the customer. It's their money. They have that right to withdraw. Okay. Then they also have the right to interest. There are some accounts that come with interest rates. Okay. Like for instance, a savings account, let's say it has 5% interest. If you keep your money with the bank for 3 months, then they give you 5% of your money as interest. So customers also have that right from the bank, the right to interest. Okay, so that is the other rights that the customers have. Then aside from rights, customers also have duties that they have to follow. Okay, so number one is to take reasonable care in drawing checks. Take reasonable care in drawing checks. So when a customer is drawing a check, they have to make sure they take reasonable care in drawing that check. They have to ensure that everything is drawn properly. Okay. So they also have the duty to disclose forgeries once he is aware of it. So when a customer is aware of any forgery, they have to disclose it with the bank. Okay. The customer must keep safe the checkbook issued by the bank. You know, sometimes people are fond of forging. You might find that you misplace your checkbook and then someone knows your signature. They'll just sign for you using your checkbook, of course, and go draw your money. So it is important for a customer to keep the checkbook safe, which the bank has issued to them. Okay. Then the other duty is in case of theft or loss of the checkbook, to report the matter immediately to the bank. So in case of theft or loss of the checkbook, it is important for a customer to report the matter to the bank immediately. Why? Because, like I said, some people are fond of forging. You might find that you lose your checkbook, then someone just signs for you and writes a very huge amount of money and withdraws from your account without you knowing, because you've just lost your checkbook. So it is important for a customer to report the matter immediately they lose their checkbook. So they have to make it known to the bank to say they've lost their checkbook, so that in case the bank receives any check um, that requires withdrawing from such a customer's account, they can inform their customer. Okay, when such a transaction can be dishonored. Okay. Then now let us look at the rights of the bank. Number one is to receive and collect checks for his customer's account. So the bank has the right to receive and collect checks from his customer's account. So that is number one, right? And number two is to honor checks and not to pay without a valid authority. Provided a check is properly drawn, the customer still have a balance to his credit, no legal restrictions against the customer's draft. Okay, so the bank has the right to honor a check and not to pay without a valid authority. So like I said in the previous slide, let's say when the customer loses their checkbook and then they find that someone takes a check to the bank to make it drawn. So here the bank will not make a payment for a check until they have a valid authority. Okay, so no wonder it is important to make known to the bank when the customer loses their checkbook. Okay, then the other rights that the bank has is to set off. So it is the right of the banker to adjust outstanding loans in the name of the customer from his credit balance of any of the accounts maintained by the bank. Okay, so when a customer has a loan with the bank, it is the duty of the bank, or it is the right of the bank, sorry, it is the right of the bank to set off. It is their right, not duty here. So it is the right of the bank to set off. They can adjust the outstanding loans that the customer has with them. Then the other right is to charge interest, commission, etc. Only to name a few there. It is the right of the banker to charge interest according to the rates of service rendered. Okay, so the bank has this right to charge interest or commission. They can charge commission according to the service that they render to their customers. They have that right to charge some interest. Okay, like we'll take for instance when the bank gives a loan to its customer, they have this right to charge interest. Like when you're repaying the loan, the customer has to repay that loan, the principal amount plus the interest that the bank will charge. Okay, so they have that right to charge interest. Okay, then the last right we have here is to service charges. Okay, so banks can also service charges as their right. Let us now look at the duties of bank. Okay, so number one is to abide to the standing orders made by the customer in making scheduled payments on his behalf. Abide to the standing orders made by the customer in making scheduled payments on his behalf. So they have that duty. Then also to keep secrecy of the customer's account. The bank owes a contractual obligation not to disclose the customer's financial information without his consent. However, this obligation is not considered essential only when, number one, a banker is required to give evidence in court. So when a banker is required to give evidence in court, um, they, they, they do not have to maintain this duty that they have for maintaining secrecy of the customer's account. Okay, since these are court issues here. Then number two is national emergency and public interest. So when there's a national emergency or there's some public interest, then the banker does not have to keep secrecy for the customer's account. And number three is treason against state. So that also the bank does not have to keep secrecy for customers' accounts in case of a treason against state. Okay, then lastly, consent is given by customer. So when the consent is given to the bank by the customer, then they cannot keep secrecy of the customer's account. Otherwise, if not for these four, the bank has to keep secrecy to the customer. They have to keep secrecy of the customer's account, because when they make known to the public about their customer's account, some harm may be done to maybe the customer's business. Okay, so nowadays it is important for the banker to keep secrecy of the customer's account. Then now let us look at the duties of banker and customer. Duties of banker and customer. So do not get confused when you look at duties of banker and customer. These are simply relationships, of banker and customer. These are simply relationships of banker and customer. Okay, so number one is duties as debtor and creditor. Number two, duties as principal and agent. Then duties as bailer and bailee. And lastly, duties as owner and pawnee. So no wonder we said banking law revolves around a relationship of banker and customer. This is why we say that, because mostly that is what we're looking at. It's the relationship of banker and customer. So when you see duties of banker and customer, do not get confused. These are simply just relationships between the banker and the creditor. So let us look at these one by one. We'll start with debtor and creditor. So when a customer deposits money with a bank, their relationship is that the bank becomes the debtor and the customer becomes the creditor. How is this? When a customer deposits money into the bank, they become the debtor. They become the debtor. They become the creditor. When a customer deposits money in a bank, their relationship is that the bank becomes the debtor and customer becomes creditor. This is so because when a customer deposits money into the bank owes the customer money. So when time comes when the customer will need that money, they just have to demand for that money, and the bank will give that money back to the customer because it is their money, it is the customer's money. Here the bank owes money to the customer, no wonder the bank is the debtor and the customer is the creditor in this case. Okay. The customer expects from the bank that his money will be kept safe by the bank and will be returned on demand within business hours. Of course, sometimes you might find that the customer makes the demand at an hour that is not a business hour. Like for instance, 23 hours, an ATM is 24/7, of course. So you may make your demand at any time, but there's some amounts of money that you cannot withdraw from the ATM. Let's say you want 20,000, you cannot withdraw that. No wonder we're saying demand within business hours, because sometimes you may find that the amount is huge and you cannot withdraw it at an hour that is not a business hour. Okay. Then we're saying the position is reserved if the customer, the position is reversed if the customer was advanced with a loan. Here the banker becomes the creditor and the customer becomes the debtor. Okay, so when the customer gets a loan from the bank, here now the positions change. The customer becomes the debtor and the bank um, becomes the creditor. Okay, then we also have a situation where a customer overdraws money from his account. Okay. Um, when a customer overdraws money from his account, that is a bank overdraft. The relationship also has this one for a loan. The bank is the data, and so sorry, the bank is the creditor, and the customer is the data. So when a customer overdraws, the customer becomes um, the the creditor, sorry, the data, and the bank becomes the creditor. Okay, so that is relationship number one, relationship of data creditor. Before that is clear. Then we have the principal and agent relationship. Principal and agent relationship. So the customer becomes principal when he deposits check, draft, dividends for collection with the bank. Okay. So this is when the customer becomes the principal. So as a principal, the customer gives a written order, instruction to the bank to purchase securities, pay insurance premium, installations of loans, etc. on his behalf. Okay, so when a bank does the agency functions, then the customer is the principal and the bank is the agent in such a situation. The bank becomes an agent by performing the services. Okay, so that is how the principal and agent relationship of a bank operates. Like the example I gave earlier on, where a customer gives a written order, a customer in that case is, let's say, a company. They give a written order to the bank to say, pay our employees the salaries. Okay, so by performing that service for the customer, who is the company, the bank is acting as an agent for the principal. Okay, then we have the bailer and bailee relationship or duties of bailer and bailee. Okay, so a bailment is a delivery of goods in trust. A bailment is a delivery of goods in trust. A bank may act a bank may accept, the valuables of his customers, such as jewelries, prices, or price documents, valuable items, only to name a few for safe custody. Okay, so in such circumstances, the banker is the bailee, and the customer becomes the bailer. Okay, the banker is the bailee and the customer is the bailer. A bailer is that person who takes property for safekeeping, and the bailee is to whom that property is brought. Okay, so no wonder in this circumstance the banker is the bailee and the customer is the bailer, since the customer is the one who is taking his valuable goods to the bank for safe custody. Okay, so that is how the bailer and the bailee relationship comes about, or duties comes about. Let us go to the next one. We have the owner and pawnee duties, owner and pawnee relationships. Okay, so when a customer pledges goods and documents as security for an advance, he then becomes a pawnee. When customer pledges goods and documents as security for an advance, he then becomes a pawnee. The pledged goods are to be returned to the owner after debt is repaid. So I'll give an example where a customer wants to get a loan with the bank. Let's say a customer wants a loan for 200,000 kwacha. 200,000 kwacha has the customer wants a loan to the bank from the bank for 200,000 kwacha. What will happen? The customer will take, let's say, maybe a very expensive car, has a pledge, um, or maybe will take title deeds for a house to take there as a pledge, um, to make a promise to say, okay, I will pay back your loan just for security purpose. Okay, and then once the customer repays back that loan, they can get back their car, they can get back their title deeds for the house that they took to the bank in order to secure their loan. Okay, so that is how the owner and owning relationship um, happens. Okay, the next item we'll look at is commercial banks. Commercial banks. What is a commercial bank? Okay, commercial bank. So a commercial bank, the term commercial bank is used for a normal bank. The term commercial bank is used for a normal bank to distinguish it from an investment bank. Commercial bank is a term that is used for a normal bank to distinguish it or maybe to differentiate it from an investment bank. An investment bank is that bank that is only engaged in banking activities. Okay, so this bank, which is the commercial bank, it mostly deals with deposits and loans. It mostly deals with uh, accepting deposits as well as issuing loans. Okay, so here we have three segments of the commercial bank. We have three segments of the commercial bank. Number one, public sector banks. So commercial banks can be public sector banks as one segment. So the term public sector banks by itself connotes a situation where the major or maybe the full stake of the banks are held by the government. So a bank where the major or maybe the full stake of that bank is held by the government denotes a public sector bank. Okay, so commercial banks, on the other hand, can also be private sector banks. Commercial banks can also be private sector banks. Um, so the major stakeholders in the private sector banks are individuals and corporates. Okay, so commercial banks can also be segmented as private sector banks. Then lastly, the third segment is foreign banks. So the other important segment of the commercial banking is that of foreign banks. Okay, so foreign banks are allowed to operate through branches or wholly owned subsidiaries. So let's say an individual or maybe an institution decides to open a bank in a country that is not theirs, in a foreign country, uh, they can either um, operate through branches. Let's say the headquarters is in their country, and then they just bring uh, branches in a foreign country, so they can operate either like that, or they can bring even the headquarters to the foreign country. They construct the infrastructure there, and come about with the headquarters there, so they can either they are allowed to operate like that. They can either operate through branches or wholly owned subsidiaries. Okay, so these banks are very active in treasury, let's say in the forex market, and trade finance and corporate banking activities. Okay, so that is the last item we were looking at. This is the end of the first unit, banking law. Thank you so much.